Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It's going to be a beautiful weekend, and I got these beautiful pastel roses from my mom for Easter, and I thought I would do a quick abstract journal entry in my sketchbook. And so I got out my Shinhan gouache paints, and they're beautiful pastel colors that came in the collection. And so I've got the light pink, yellow, blue, green, and purple, two purples, a periwinkle. They call it hydrangea blue. I call it periwinkle. And then like a light lilac. And I've got a number 10 Arches brush, which seemed to be the best brush to use because it doesn't hold a super lot of water like the Princeton Neptunes that I use sometimes. This one seemed to be just right for this painting. And I thought I'd do something real loose. The flowers themselves are, I think they're hand dyed, and they've got all the pastel Easter colors in them. And so whenever I get bouquet from my husband or my daughters or my mom, I like to sketch it in my sketchbook. And it is fun to look back through the years and see all the different bouquets that my kids and husband and mom have given to me. And so I'm just really, same method I use a lot. Wet the area where you want the flowers. I put in the 5 or 6 spots where I want the flowers to kind of let the water soak into the paper. And you'll notice as you work your way around the flowers, as the water dries, the movement is a little bit slower on the drier areas, but you can re-wet it. It can cause some reactivation of some of the colors, but with this method, you really want lots of runny, pretty color going all over the flower. So it's fine to just keep plunking in colors. The one bit of advice that I would get is try not to put your yellow and purple super wet right next to each other, because they will mix together and make kind of a gray. So I'm kind of trying to leave a little space in between those two colors and just let them run in on the very ends of where I'm dropping the color in. But I mean, when you get your paintbrush out and do this, you'll see it's really fun to watch the movement on this paint. I'm going to try to zoom in with the camera on some parts. I'm new at this camera stuff, to show you where you can just see the paint bloom out in this beautiful, these beautiful patterns on the flower. And the thing that I like about this style of painting is it's something that you couldn't replicate if you tried. It's very unique. And at first it might seem a little odd and you might not like it, but put it away and come back to it the next day. First of all, it continues to run a little bit and kind of the colors gently weave together. So when you come back the next day, a lot of times it looks a little bit different than it did the day before. Also, when you look at it with fresh eyes, I don't know about you, but when I'm painting, I can be very critical of myself while I'm painting. Like, this looks terrible. This is awful. And actually, the end of this painting I cut out because my daughter walked in, my dog walked in, and I proceeded to kind of ruin the painting with a bunch of green. So I stopped this. I am posting this video to the point where I'm pretty happy with it, and it was a lot of fun. But again, a nice thing about watercolor is it's just water. It's and it's just paper, not just water. Water's a precious resource, but it's just paper compared to doing a painting on a canvas or a board. Watercolor paper can be expensive, but it is like the least costly of the mediums. And I don't feel as bad if I cut up a piece of paper to use it as bookmarks, or toss it. I don't usually toss it. I usually end up taking ugly watercolors and putting gouache over them because that's more opaque. So you can save, your papers and repurpose them, but it gives you kind of a freedom to just really let loose and play around with your paints and not feel like, it's a terrible thing if you end up losing your painting. So I'm liking the way that these colors are blending into each other. It's really capturing the essence of the pastels in the roses. And I'm going to block in, there's a real pretty light green clear glass vase that came with this. And I'm not going to be real particular with it because I want the focus to be on the flowers. So I'm just wetting it beforehand so that the water runs a little bit, and I'll plunk in a little bit of darker shadow at the bottom. Not darker shadow, darker green, which is how the glass appears when you look at it, darker at the bottom. And again, I don't want to be really fussy with this. You can really, I don't know, if when you're doing something, a bouquet, unless the focus is some really like heirloom vase that you have, you really want the focus to be on the flowers. So I just want this to kind of complement my floral, but not really detract from it. And so I'm adding a little bit. I started with kind of a spring green and putting in a little bit more of a blue green at the bottom. And I always want to anchor it. I'll throw some purple under there for a shadow, put in a little water line, put in the lopsided handles, which probably should have paid a little more attention to, but you don't want the top to be very abstract and the bottom to be super detailed because that can look a little unintentional, I guess. I just don't, I kind of want the painting to flow together in a uniform style, but also for you to be able to tell that that's a vase. So plunk in some more blues, and then I'm just going to stay with the palette I've been using and put the dark purple periwinkle color at the bottom to kind of anchor this vase so it's not floating. If you don't do that, it looks like it's anything. It looks like it's just floating in the air. And I didn't really want to do a background around these because I wanted the focus to be the flowers. But I'm going to plunk in a few leaves, which had I waited a minute, it wouldn't have run like that. But it's okay. It kind of, I don't know. I think it actually doesn't look terrible in the painting at the end. I was not unhappy with that big pop of green there. And we'll add a few more stems. And I probably should have added the stems a little bit earlier. It's also something I like to do, is put the stems in early so they kind of run into the flower a little bit. But either way, it looks okay. And I start with a spring green, and then I put a little bit darker green. And then I add a little bit of blue green to my paint. I think with anything that you're doing, you don't want it to look necessarily like a cartoon cutout or flat. And the way that, it can appear flat is if you have one color or one value. You want to vary your values and your colors, also for interest to the eye. And I plunked in a monster leaf up here, and then we'll plunk in just wherever you see spots. And if you notice, you vary back and forth between the spring green with more yellow in it and the darker green. And then you can also go back in and drop a darker value on the light leaves, or even a lighter color into the darker leaves, to give you a little bit of variety in your leaves. But basically, that is my abstract Easter bouquet. I hope you liked it. I hope you give it a try on your own. I am going to start a Facebook group where you can share these paintings that you've done because I'd love to see them. I hear about them, but YouTube doesn't allow people to post. So please click like and subscribe. If you liked this, feel free to share my videos. Have a wonderful Easter if you celebrate. And I will put a link in below when I add the Facebook page. It'll be this Monday. And so if you give these paintings a try, please share them with me and comment and let me know if you tried this and if you like this method of painting. I really enjoy it. It's one of the most enjoyable, it kind of releases stress. So have a wonderful weekend and thanks again for joining me.